If you're anything like me, you just can't wait to get sowing and laying out the new season's garden. But there's one task essential for setting yourself up for success, and it's a task you can do right now: getting your soil ready. Well-prepared soil will give your garden a jump start and your plants the very best start to the season. Hi, I'm Ben Van Heems, and on this channel we share the very best tips for growing an easy, productive vegetable garden. Fork, check. Rake, check. Come on, let's get going.
In nature, the ground is rarely bare. Whether it's leaves, old plant matter, weeds or sprawling plants, there's usually something keeping it covered. We want to follow nature's lead by covering up our beds, and the sooner we do it, the better.
This bed has been recently cleared of parsnips. When you consider all of the nutrients that were taken up by the parsnips, then removed at harvest time, well, that's an awful lot of nutrients lost from the soil. All of that needs replacing, and the best way to do it is with good old organic matter.
I'm using mature garden compost, which I can barrow over to my beds to give them the boost they need. But well-rotted cow manure or horse manure from a trusted source where you know there's no risk of herbicide contamination is another great source of rich organic matter. Spread your chosen organic matter out to cover the soil surface to a depth of at least 2 inches or 5 centimetres, and ideally more. You can dig this organic matter into your soil, or simply leave it on the surface where it will bury weed seeds while keeping the soil structure beneath undisturbed. Let the worms do the digging for you, I say.
Now, what if spring typically takes its time in arriving where you are? That's where taking measures to warm up the soil could pay real dividends, shunting forward your growing season by as much as 2 weeks.
Raised beds can help improve conditions by enabling wet, cold soils to drain through and dry out that little bit earlier. Speed things along even more by physically barring rain and snow from reaching your soil.
How? By covering the soil with something like this non-porous black plastic. You'll need to anchor it down properly so it doesn't blow away, but dark sheeting like this not only keeps the soil dry, it also absorbs heat, which can only be a good thing for your ambitions to get on and plant. Just one word of caution though: don't keep the soil covered for much longer than a couple of months, or you run the risk of upsetting the balance of all those beneficial bacteria that are in your soil.
If you're not keen on plastic, you could use old salvaged windows like these. Lay them directly onto the ground or raise them up onto a simple frame secured into place with pegs or sections of bamboo canes like this. An effortless, instant cold frame. Beds freshly charged with lots of organic matter are great if you can raise young plants and seedlings elsewhere to plant out once they're a bit bigger. That way, if there are a few weeds, your plants should be big and tough enough to hold their own against them. But what if you don't have the space or time to raise seedlings away from your beds? This is where stale seed beds come into play. A stale seed bed is what you get when you actually encourage weed seeds near the soil surface to germinate, and then remove them while they're still young to leave a clear, sterile bed. Doing this means that your young vegetables can start life with significantly reduced competition from weeds. Lightly disturb the soil surface, then warm up the soil using sheets of clear plastic or a cold frame. Then, once the weed seedlings are up, pull them out, hoe them off, ready to sow or plant immediately. Don't dig up the soil, which will just bring new weed seeds to the surface. The idea is to just remove those that are already at the top.
And of course, you can always keep your prepared stale seed beds covered until you're ready to sow or plant. Now, this method works best with annual weeds, but perennial weeds, they won't give up quite so easily. So check over beds often and hoik them out as you find them, taking care to remove as much of the roots as you can. Once you've completed these steps, your soil should be raring to go. But it's easy for spring to start, only for it to apparently retreat for a few weeks. So you have cold frames, row covers or garden fleece at the ready to throw over plants in the event of a surprise late frost. Check out our videos on crop protection for more details.